Hello everyone, and welcome to a video I wanted to do for quite some time. Today we're discussing why English spelling is a mess. English has a lot of silent letters. In fact, a survey of English spelling showed that 60% of words in the English language contain a silent letter in them. In fact, almost every letter of the alphabet is silent, at least in one word. Many argue that V and Y are the only letters that are never silent in English. And OUGH can be pronounced in a variety of different ways, depending on what word it is in. I have studied the pronunciation and spelling systems of various languages, and they made more sense than English. Fun fact, in Shakespeare's time there was no correct way of spelling, as people can spell words any way they like. In fact, the same word could be spelled differently by the same person in the same sentence. Shakespeare had up to 80 different recorded spellings of his own name, and we just happened to decide on how to spell his name in the last century. YouTubers like Rob Words and the BBC have talked about how languages like Spanish, German, Italian, Finnish, speakers of these languages, learn to read and write 2 times faster than native English speakers, and are 2 times less likely to be diagnosed with dyslexia than native English speakers. English spelling is so bad that English speakers hold competitions like spelling bees. No other language has that. Now, many of you are asking why. Well, the first thing you have to know is that English pronunciation has changed over time. Let's take a look at the letter combination GH. Have you ever wondered why there are so many GHs in the middle or ends of words? That's because it used to represent a sound which went something like which is a rough H sound. The trouble is that the GH in some became silent in some words, like light, thought, and daughter, and made the vowel before it longer, which got affected by another sound change. However, in some words, it turned to F sounds, like in words like cough, laugh, and enough. Another sound change is that some consonants at the start of words became silent. All the K's next to N and W's next to R used to be pronounced. In fact, in German, a language related to English, K next to N and W next to R is still pronounced, though it is worth noting that German W's are pronounced as V's. The final major pronunciation change was the Great Vowel Shift. The Great Vowel Shift started in 1350 or 1400, depending on who you ask, and it ended in 1700. No one knows what caused it. This caused major changes to the pronunciation of long vowel sounds. For example, the long E shifted to I, like it did in the word bite. Long oo sound shifted to ow in words like bout, while long e and o sounds shifted to long e and oo, respectively, like you see in words like beat and boot. So before the shift, spelling conventions like double O and E made sense because they represented long e and o sounds respectively. But pronunciation changes were not the only thing to mess up English spelling. Let's take a look at the phenomena called Latinization. In the 16th century, the Renaissance hit England, and learning types became obsessed with Latin and Greek, and they decided to change the spelling of words to fit their Latin or Greek roots. For example, words of Greek origin that had F's, like physics and phlegm, had their F's replaced with PH's, while words of Latin origin like debt, doubt, receipt, and salmon had silent letters inserted to them to show their Latin origins. However, those scholars made some mistakes. For example, they thought the word island was related to the Latin word insula, but they are not related. Loan words is another problem. English, like many languages, likes to borrow words from other languages, but it doesn't change the spelling of words to fit the language. For example, English heavily borrowed from French because of the 1066 invasion. Words like champagne, chandelier, chef, hour, honest, honor, hors d'oeuvre, herb, however Brits stopped pronouncing it with a silent H sometime in the 19th century, ballet and boutique all entered the English language through French. Of course, the French changed the spelling of many words. For example, they replaced the CW in words like quick and queen with QU to match French spelling conventions at the time. English, of course, borrowed words from other languages, not just French, like from German we got kitsch, from Spanish we got gorilla, from Italian we have gnocchi and zucchini, and from Norwegian we have fjord, and from Japanese we got karaoke and tsunami. Now, many of you are asking, why doesn't anyone change that? Well, many people have tried, and most of them have failed. If you Google spelling reforms, you'll find several results. The closest person to reforming English spelling is Noah Webster, but most of his suggestions were accepted in the US. He is the reason why words like color and center are spelled the way they are. In fact, all the American and British spelling differences are the results of attempted spelling reforms, but there have been the adoption of small reforms. For example, fantasy with an F and minuscule with two I's used to be incorrect spellings, and words like today, email, and wireless used to be hyphenated. Another problem with changing English spelling is the fact that English has no regulatory body that monitors how words are being spelt and pronounced. All those languages that I mentioned consistent spelling have regulatory bodies and have underwent spelling reforms because of those bodies. For more information about English spelling, check out David Crystal's book, and don't worry, even native English speakers who are teachers make spelling mistakes. Well, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.